I don't know if you are. I'm pausing because I'm getting external. Did all of you hear that? We're learning how this works, everyone, as we go. So this will be a fun one. The broadcast started, so we're going to start. So anyway, I've been a training facilitator. I've also been a client needing training facilitators. And now I'm on the inside at Infopro, finding the facilitators and instructors and learning professionals for our clients to augment their staff. So I consider it like this trilateral partnership of success powerhouse. And I feel so excited because that's what you have here today. You have the facilitator, instructor, the contract solution for our client. We have our client, Jonyce Ruiz, and then we have myself on the inside who helps connect the dots, and kind of with Infopro Learning, providing the solution, kind of asking questions. What do you need? Why do you need it? How do we help you? And who do we have that would be the best fit? So with setting that stage, Jonyce, how did you come to decide that you needed for Avanade and some of your programs to outsource some of the learning delivery talent?
Well, it really started out a few years ago, just before the pandemic hit. And I had, it was 2019, I had just taken over in professional skills. And the big thing was our consulting excellence curriculum. It's really the backbone of building those basic consulting skills for our employees. And so when I got it, we were all getting ready for, the next in-person and how is this going to work? And then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden it became virtual. So once I changed it to virtual, I did several train the trainers where I trained up some of our internal folks. And again, that's how we've always done it. And started, going forth. Well, because of the pandemic required a shift in workplace, we had an influx of business from our clients needing to go virtual. And so most of our people weren't available. And so when I would try to do a training class, I would get, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Oh, I can't be here. I've just got staffed. I got an emergency client. And so then I'd have to cancel classes. And it just got to a point where that was too much, trying to find the instructor. But secondly, just scaling, because we were bringing in new employees all the time through the pandemic, and getting people trained up and up to speed wasn't feasible to do it in the way we were doing it. And so the best way, I thought, was we've got to bring in some instructors, some ringers who have the consultancy background, but also have the skill set to teach a class so that we can scale it. And, the years previously, we'd done maybe a couple hundred here and there. And the first year Infopro came in, we piloted it just in North America with one class. And we ended up with over 1,000 participants that year. And so the following year, we expanded it again over 1,000. And this year, we're, kind of on for about 2,200. So it really came down to, how do I bring this this training class to the masses across a global organization?
Excellent. And I think of this talk as a case study in what several people are feeling out there in their organizations. And so it'll be exciting to hear what your experience is, and kind of I'll describe some other clients are facing the same challenges. And for those of you out there listening who haven't ever thought about outsourcing or finding external contract facilitators for your programs, please add your questions in. But listen, we're excited that you're here to listen and see overcoming that first initial risk, because we know, can they do it? Can they become one of our team? Can they speak our language? Can they deliver our program? So Clinton, you were one of the first facilitators. Of course, Infopro, you've been partnering with us for, like you said before, I think longer than I've been at Infopro. So I'm excited to have this chance to work with you. But you were one of the first facilitators from our highly talented bench of facilitators to join Avanade's programs and deliver them. So can you tell us about the experience and kind of how you saw this as a positive solution?
Yes, and I think the first thing to say is Infopro is the only provider with whom I work as an associate, and there's a good reason for that. And I think it touches on some of the things that Jonyce mentioned. And that is, it's relatively easy to find trainers who will pick up a manual and read off the slides. But what I like about Infopro is that you work with the facilitators on understanding the context, understanding the culture. So we spent time with Jonyce understanding what Avanade is. So I occasionally even slip into, when I'm delivering with her teams, using the word "what we at Avanade do." And I think that's a really important point, because what we're talking about today is outsourcing the upskilling of people, outsourcing, inspiring them to want to go away and apply the knowledge. What we're not talking about is providing a commodity resource that's going to talk to a slide deck. And I think, Jonyce, that's certainly something that came across in the conversations we had with you originally. And that's what attracted me to Infopro. When I'm working with Infopro, I'm not just picking up a slide deck and filling in a time slot. I'm actually passionate about the content. You only use me on things that I can excel at, and I only accept assignments that I can excel at. And I think that's an important distinction, because what Jonyce then gets on the different programs is people who understand the content and can actually sound as though they really believe what they're saying.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for that. And my internet's a little iffy today, so I think I'm dropping in and out. If I do drop out, please carry on and talk about good stuff. Anyway, so thank you for saying that, Clinton. And I appreciate you have the opportunity. You know, you have your own businesses. You are a consultant for us, and in partnership with Infopro, and you've brought enormous value to many of our clients, including Avanade. And I know, Jonyce, you talked about the switch from instructor-led, in-person instructor-led delivery of these courses to virtual, and how it was you then saw the possibilities of scaling and the global reach. Can you talk a little bit about, and Clinton, you also mentioned that you're doing deliveries for North America as well as Europe, and in some cases you might be doing for Asia Pacific region and other parts of the world. With
2 a.m. till 11 p.m. are typical days.
I was going to say, I know for me, in speaking to various facilitators that we have or that we are starting to engage with from around the world, similarly, we look for whatever the client needs, from a facilitator to deliver sales training in Spain, to someone to deliver leadership training for a large pharmaceutical company in Latin America, to facilitators and instructors to deliver technology training to companies, whatever there are. I know one of my days could be spent starting speaking with someone in Singapore and ending speaking with someone in Australia, and in between speaking with people in Mexico, Romania, Germany, Canada, everywhere. So Jonyce, if you could talk a little bit about that global reach and the challenges that you had faced, and now how the virtual and partnering with a contracting company like Infopro, particularly Infopro, has helped that.
Well, so that's kind of where we started with the in-person instructor-led. What they originally did is they would actually the main point of contacts for the course would go to different regions. So they were traveling to Asia Pac, they were traveling to Europe, and all across North America to train trainers in order for them to teach it in person. Obviously, that wasn't something we could do, so we did try the virtual train the trainer, so that when they taught the class, they were able to teach it in the native languages for our non-native English-speaking learners. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. So. So we worked on that, and what we saw was, in my ability and my colleagues' ability to teach the train the trainer, there was still a bit of a struggle in the absorption of it, because of it being in English, and that's not their native language. And so one of the biggest problems we had was, how do we get this course out in an equitable fashion so that we have consistency along the training, but we're also getting our folks in Japan or our folks in Brazil are getting the quality instruction and the content that we've put together. And that's one of the things that we've expanded on this year with Infopro is, getting multilingual instructors. You have one of them she's fluent in English, French, and Italian, so like a triple threat right there for us. And she's one of our favorites here as well. But having somebody who can speak those languages very well, speak English very well, and understand and learn in that context, really, I think will help, especially when we do things like role plays. It's so hard to act not in your native language, I would think. And it's hard enough to learn not in your native language. I can't imagine. So
it's true. Often we have clients who have the delivery, let's say, obviously there's experiential learning, but there's usually still a PowerPoint or some kind of presentation aspect of the learning. And I know that your program that we help you with has a combination of experiential role plays, various topics to build the competencies of your consultants. And oftentimes the materials are in English, but the bilingual ability to have the side conversations, to give a comment, or to just let the participants kind of exhale a little bit and be able to share a thought or participate in a discussion in their native language has been remarkable, because they're kind of all used to it now in terms of seeing the materials in English. And it's nice when it can be translated when we know it's localized and all participants are from a particular region. But that's one of the benefits of being able to have our bilingual and trilingual and sometimes quadrilingual facilitators, which of course amaze us Americans who don't do a lot of languages.
Exactly. And we have a foundational, this is Consulting Excellence Foundational is one of our courses, right? This is the baseline for new to consulting, new to the workforce, who may not be as versed in bilingual, right? So we tend to put a lot of that on our upper levels, but our lower levels may not have that skill set just yet. Working in a global organization may take a few years before they get the multilingual aspect, or they're able to grasp it. Or maybe, that's what I would assume. I don't know for sure because I don't live in another country, but I can only imagine how hard that would be. And so that was a big driving force for us, was making sure we were able to offer this more broadly in a consistent fashion in folks' native languages.
And I know for Infopro Learning, for several of our clients, we do work with them to consult on localizing if there's a course that needs to be delivered, and we will bring in the consultant. And Clinton, you've been involved in this process, not necessarily for language, but for expertise in certain industries and certain approaches, where you're pulled in as a consultant in addition to the intended facilitator to kind of help partner, again, the trilateral with our client and us. If our design team is involved, if our leadership and organizational development team is involved in the consulting, we also respect and highly need our consultants to help in those areas. Can you speak to that a little bit, Clinton?
Yes, certainly I don't contribute to the multilingual. Having lived for 12 years in the US and been born and bred in the UK, I still struggle with English and spelling. But I think one of the critical things is, and one of the things I like, is that within Infopro, you always require the facilitators to really understand the content. So all of us are experts in the topics that we deliver. That means that Jonyce and other clients can be confident that they're actually getting contemporary material that's valid and reliable. I think secondly, we are conscious of the fact that we've moved from a face-to-face environment often to a virtual one. And I think one of the dreadful things that happened with COVID was overnight, people suddenly believed they were experts in working virtually. I'd been involved as CEO of a software house since 1997, working with virtual platforms, predecessors to GoToMeeting and various others. And what we know from research is that keeping people's attention on a virtual platform and equipping them to take material away is fundamentally different to doing it in a face-to-face environment. So I think one of the things we bring to the party is an understanding of that. How do we keep people's attention? How do we make sure that 2 days later they still remember what we covered with them? And I say that's fundamentally different. And it's been a pleasure working with some of the other associates that you have on looking at that, and also working with Jonyce and her team on how we're going to do that in their incredibly busy back-to-back virtual world.
Chaos.
Yes, and I think we've all had to quickly become more tech savvy than maybe we even were, with all of the tools that are available out there for virtual learning to make it engaging, to make it interactive and experiential. We're in person, we can do breakout groups and wall charts and all kinds of physical activities where you touch and feel and experience and breathe next to someone and kind of speak with them. And there are these tools out there for the virtual environment, and we've all had to quickly learn them, whether we're incorporating them as the instructional design side of things, but then also if the instructional designers have inserted them into the build of the course, we have to know how to run them as facilitators. And so it's been exciting to see some of the technology, and it's not perfect. It sometimes causes hiccups, but it's exciting to see people being able to enjoy the training rather than just staring at a screen is difficult for participants.
Yeah. And I think when choosing an outsourced vendor, of which obviously Infopro is one, and others are available, to quote television shows comments, it's important to select an organization that understands the technology, because there's been a huge tendency of late to use tools because they're there and because they're fun. Now, learning should be fun, but it shouldn't only be fun. And many of the tools I've seen outsourcing companies use, and it's one of the reasons I tend to restrict myself to Infopro, is we use tools because we've got a proven added value. We know why we're doing it, and Infopro when needed and Avanade when needed provide technical backup so that the person facilitating actually can focus on the facilitation and isn't focusing on playing with gizmos. I'm all for using technology. I was a CEO of a software house, but let's use it for what it's good at, and let's not use it in a way that distracts. And very often I see outsourced providers plopping things in because they're bright, shiny objects. What Jonyce wanted was for her new consultants to go away better consultants, perhaps with a smile on her face, but better consultants was the primary need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was key in what you all were able to offer, right? Because again, with virtual, as Clinton said, it gets boring. I mean, come on, it's consulting, it's communication. I mean, it's the basics, and it feels like repetitive and it can be boring. You need somebody who has that skill set, that facilitator skill set that can, I think Phoebe, you mentioned this, harvest knowledge from the group, but also facilitate conversations and get people interacting and engaged. If you just have somebody who's teaching off the slides or just off the cuff of their own knowledge, you're missing the opportunity of getting the knowledge, right, from the participants. And one of the things I've seen is a lot of them already have this knowledge. It's just putting it into context of consulting and how to interact with our clients. And those are those little stories and nuances that help to build their confidence when they move into, those consulting roles after they've been through training. So it's a skill set that not everybody has. Our internal instructors, as God love them, they're technologists, right? I mean, they're consultants, so they've got the skills and the knowledge, but they don't have the facilitator knowledge and practice yet. And it's like a unicorn, right? You can find one or two of them, but they're usually the ones that are staffed on projects. So it makes it very challenging. Yeah.
It's so true. I always say that my role is a unicorn hunter, unicorn chaser, because so many of the facilitators that our clients need are those unicorns. And there's been of late, and I think it's been in the past, but we are really moving more into facilitation versus teaching or instructing, depending on the course, particularly with leadership and for these consulting excellence courses, like what you said, Jonyce, it's really having them have the freedom and safety to speak freely about their own experiences and start to plug it in and have a light bulb go off and say, oh, that's something I'm strong in and it applies here in my role as a consultant. And so that wouldn't happen if they were just taking notes from a PowerPoint with some bullets and being explained to, rather than having questions asked of them and sharing of experiences, particularly if you have a mixed group where there's some people who have a little more experience than others and they can share the experience. It's always great to see that organizations are supporting this type of learning and they're not just checking a box to have people go through and say they've completed the course, but that they come away with the outcome that's needed, which of course segues perfectly into one of our topics, success criteria and outcomes. I know that what Infopro does and is before an engagement, we do talk to our clients and we establish what does success look like for the client? What do you see as the desired outcomes and how are we going to support in achieving those? So Jonyce, will you talk about outcomes and kind of defining success when it comes to internally, but also when you're working with Infopro consultants and facilitators?
I think for us, there's a combination, right? And especially initially, it was all about the numbers, right? How many people can we get through the training? But as we go through this, right, we're really looking at the quality of our consultants and starting to explore, you know, what is the behavior changes that we're recognizing within our consultants. One of the things we do at the very end of the class is ask them how they're going to apply what they've learned, right? What are they going to start doing, stop doing, continue doing, so that they're already making that, you know, commitment. And of course, we want to see that then into their projects. The other thing that I love about this is being able to free up our primary consultants for the work that they're, you know, they were brought in to do. And I think that that is one of the things that, for me, it's a cost savings all around, because we're not losing our revenue with our clients by having somebody working internally for this, but we're also saving revenue or saving money when it comes to scheduling, right? So I think it's, for me, it's a bit of a, it seems expensive to hire somebody else to come in and do this, but it actually is cost savings. It allows me to say, okay, here's all the classes I need. Here's some dates, go forth, find the instructors, come back to me. And then all of that logistics is done, right? And it's done through, you know, a partnership with us in Infopro. But the hard part of, can you teach this class? Can you teach this class? Can you teach this class? Is on you guys. So I don't have to worry about it, which frees me up to do other work and launch other new programs that, you know, again, contributes to our, you know, our organization. So, you know, measuring that has been a challenge, trying to figure out what are the different measuring points of it. But for me, success is I can launch other programs and know that Infopro's got my back on my business as usual consulting excellence programs. And that gives me a lot of peace of mind, but also knowing, right, that if an instructor, assigned instructor can't do it, you guys are already on top of finding a replacement for me. I don't have to go looking. So I mean, that's a big deal. And then the other success for us is the fact we're now being able to bring it to Brazil, Japan, China, you know, the countries that have kind of done it sort of in-house, but not as consistently as we'd like. So this is really exciting year for us to go that route.
And that's what's exciting for me too, when I think of, oh, I know who would be really good for this in Japan, or I know who would be really good for this in South America. But Clinton, talk to us about your thoughts on outcomes and success as the person who then it's on your shoulders to deliver this learning and facilitate this learning. What are the things that you mentioned becoming part of the Avanade team and speaking in the we at Avanade, but are there any other thoughts you have to share about your contributing to the outcomes and success criteria?
Yeah, my experience with other clients and my past experience says that when people are looking to outsource, they often don't think enough about the success criteria and what does it mean. Very often they're driven by procurement. Procurement want the per person fee to be below a certain figure. People want to have control, so you get the control executives who say, no, we're going to have our own leadership and management development expert in-house. And I think it's important for people considering resourcing a sophisticated or even a relatively basic training and development function to think about the wider issues. So Jonyce has covered a number of them. You know, getting the admin off of your back, which these days with people's calendars is a nightmare. We happily take that on. Well, you do, Phoebe. But there's also something about being able to turn the tap on and off. You know, Jonyce can, you know, at relatively short notice, add a new program, delete a program. Whereas if that was in-house, she's now got the problem of people, what do I do with these people, or where do I get these people from? There's something about the experience, yeah, maintaining the level of experience that Infopro can with the large numbers of facilitators that you have is beyond even an organization the size of Avanade. Imagine that some of the people on this webinar are probably from relatively small companies compared to Avanade. Being able to have an in-house cadre capable of delivering leadership programs, communication programs, management programs, decision-making, design thinking, negotiating, all of those different topics. Yeah, what you're going to end up with is stunning mediocrity, which actually is probably not a good investment. So I always say, what's the investment that you're looking to make? What is the return you're trying to get? And there's things around flexibility, there's things around depth of expertise, there's things around level of skill change, yeah, inspiration. Because if what you're looking for is something that's quick, simple, and cheap, record the videos or get people to watch them on YouTube. But the one thing I've learned over the years is I've never met anybody who learned to ride a bicycle by watching a video. And it's a metaphor I use. And I think what you're trying to do in Infopro is you're trying to achieve that ultimate goal, which is people go away with an increased capability and a high probability they'll apply it.
That's true. And I know we talked a lot about these factors in terms of the cost. Jonyce, you touched on it a bit, but I'm sure there are people who might be listening who that's their fear point. It's like, how do I present this to leadership? How do I justify this cost? And you've talked about many of the factors, but was there anything particular that you did some deep cost benefit analysis or presented to your leadership or got the buy-in somehow for this way of approaching supplementing the training staff?
I said, hire me 3 full-time instructors, and they can be cross-trained this, and this. And I was told no new headcount. So I said, okay, then if we're not going to hire people, which you know, the cost to hire, you have to interview, you have to go through all of that, then you have
tremendous.
You have benefits and everything. So I knew that wasn't going to happen, but I actually asked for it, because if it does happen, great, then at least I've got somebody, right, that I can always count on. But because I knew it wasn't going to happen, the other element was, okay, so what happens with this class if our internal instructors are being pulled to go to a client? Because in our world, the client comes first, right? I mean, that's our bread and butter. So that was the other element to it. Was I don't mind using our internal instructors. I think some of them are great, but if they're going to have to go to a client or deal with a client, what's my alternative? So we came up with the assigning 2 instructors to the course. Now I have 2 people. However, if one has to go to a client call, the other one can teach. That's great, but that's 2 people not serving our clients. And then that's 2 people I have to go searching for to find. And that was the final thing, was I can't get any other work done. I can't launch any new programs. I can literally only manage this. If you really want to scale it, to where we're hitting over 1,000 employees on the regular basis, then my whole focus has to be the logistics and this program. And so it came down to those, just those few bits there that it really makes perfect sense to have somebody externally. And then Clinton touched on this, which is the flexibility. We have situations that occur, with the economics of last year, we had to cut down on some of the training courses that we did so our people could be more focused. And in doing that, right, I was able to say, sorry guys, we're going to have to scale back. Thank you. And we'll reach out as things ramp back up. And that was wonderful because I had that flexibility and the knowledge that you all were still there for me when things picked right back up. So it's truly beneficial and all the way around.
Great.
Plus, they're great people. You have great people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I know we have some other clients that have come to us recently. Maybe they've worked with us in other lines of service. Maybe they've had us build a course for them from our design teams or our studio teams. Maybe they've had us supply a training coordinator to help supplement their staff as far as a contract help where they don't have to expend all of that recruiting and hiring and the cost of recruiting and hiring. Plus, let's face it, as full-time employees, with the addition of all of the benefits, it is more costly than an invoice, and it's so much easier to just pay an invoice sometimes. But some of our clients and new clients inquiring have said, we've never used an outside instructor. We've never gone through a company. We've found them ourselves. Tell us how this will work for us. And then they're surprised to see that we're able to, handle that initial upfront legwork, present them some profiles. If they want to meet with the instructors first or the facilitators first, then they can. If they know exactly what they want and there's a particular one-time course delivery, or they're going to have a whole series, then they're kind of excited to find out that they can relax a little bit on what they need to do and see that we have their backs, like you mentioned, for quality and really, I think Clinton, you said it, targeting the skill needed for that particular program. So it's been exciting to figure out for clients, kind of help them see what they might need and then provide it in whatever timeline. Hopefully it's not too right, but in whatever timeline and urgency they have. So that's my role at Infopro primarily. Jonyce, do you want to talk a little bit about Avanade and what Avanade does, in case there is anyone out there who isn't familiar with Avanade as a company and a consulting source?
Well, sure. So Avanade is a consulting firm that specializes in Microsoft technologies. We were founded in 2000 as a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. So we really are all focused, all in on the Microsoft stack. We do a variety of offerings for our clients. We have a business group around advisory and helping clients to really explore, what's next, how do we transform, and really taking them on that journey. We have another business group that just launched last year. It's turned 1 year, I think 3 days ago, and Avanade X, and it's really all about the experiences, the workplace experience, employee experience, client experience. It's really about building those offerings and solutions for our clients that make it a good experience for their learners, for their users, for their employees, for their clients, their customers. And then, of course, what we've been known for years is our technology business group. So if you're looking to, go onto the cloud, Azure implementations, AI, data and AI is big right now. And we have a large group of folks who are all skilled up in AI, getting their Microsoft certifications. We are a partner with Microsoft and have gotten Partner of the Year, I want to say for 18 years we've gotten Partner of the Year. So I think,
well, with people like you, people like you in the organization, I am not surprised.
Yeah,
really.
It's great, and I actually started out customer facing, so I actually had that consulting background originally. So it was really great coming back into the learning space and getting to teach and own that curriculum.
Excellent. And Clinton, why don't you share a little bit more about your background and kind of the evolution of getting into, obviously you said you had an HR software company and you were CEO of that, but getting into the consulting and the HR consultancy and the training and coming to partner with Infopro. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll keep it fairly brief. I started out as a computer systems designer, working with 3M. I led a project to design the systems and procedures for one of their European distribution centers, spent a significant amount of their money, lots of zeros. And when we implemented it, we didn't see quite the return on investment we expected. We did a study in many companies that would have been the kiss of death, but actually 3M were quite enlightened. So they got us to ask why. Cut a long story short, we discovered that the technology, the equipment, even the lighting, we'd gone down to measuring what level of light optimized productivity. Everything seemed to be correct, except we hadn't won the hearts and minds of the people running the show. And that took me on to a training in St. Paul on behavior engineering, how using human interactions, technology and processes do you change the way people think, feel and act, which of course is really the bottom line of what we're trying to do as facilitators. What are we trying to do? We're using GoToMeeting or MS Teams, we're using PowerPoint, we're using our interactions, and we're trying to change the way people think and feel, and hopefully when they go away, we're trying to change how they act. So that was a short explanation of how I got from, quote my wife, from being a techie turning into a shrink. So now my passion is around that. How do we help people to realize their potential? Because, you know, one of the things I've discovered is the vast majority of people are far more capable than they believe they are, and they can achieve far more than they actually achieve. So, you know, my goal as a facilitator is how do I get people to go, do you know what, I can do this, and to go away and try, because there's nothing more exciting than see somebody, you know, improve their capability and then have the excitement of achieving the results it produces. So that's where my passion comes from.
I agree. And in my days as a traveling facilitator in person, I did some virtual, but I had since changed my role right when the pandemic was hitting. But it matches with Infopro's values and our theme of unlocking potential. We know it's there. We want to facilitate it coming out. It's not that we would write someone off as not being able to ever get it, but to just find it within and bring it forward for success. And it reminds me of back when I used to do this, and even, you know, some of the particularly technology training, generational differences, people who thought they could go their entire career and never have to learn how to use the mouse. And now suddenly their company has adapted this program. We're talking a long time ago, but just knowing that the psychological, emotional, everything that person brings, the human-centric perspective of the facilitator, to know that you really do have to carry this person along at meet them where they are, not spend too much time within the group of them, but adapt and let them have hope and know that they will be, they'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get it. We have to find it within them.
And I think that's part of Infopro's character. And there's a couple of things I'd like to mention. I think Jonyce covered it, but there may be people on here from smaller organizations, because Jonyce has been very modest about Avanade. But there's probably people on from smaller organizations. Using an outsourced provider, and Phoebe, you probably don't want me to say this, you don't have to throw all of your training across to the outsourced provider. This is about who do you use to do the things the best you can. So Infopro doesn't provide all of Avanade's training. You know, Jonyce has selected Infopro to provide a number of programs. Why? Because those are the ones that are likely to pull people away from the clients. Those are the ones where Infopro has got the depth of expertise. Those are the ones where Jonyce is likely to see the peaks and troughs. So for somebody considering outsourcing training, it is possible to choose a program, a topic, the one that you're having the most difficulty resourcing, the one where you know it's not certain it's going to carry on, so you don't want to recruit someone to specialize in it, the one where you know it's distracting people from other things. And I think that's quite key. The second thing is, if you're going to be using an outsourced provider, and this is true whether you're talking about someone who's going to provide you food in a restaurant, somebody who's going to come and do your gardening, you want somebody who's actually going to do it extremely well because they want to do it. You know, the last thing I want is somebody providing me with a service and doing it because they're, you know, just because they're being paid. I want them to do it because they love doing it. And you know, one of the things I know about most of the facilitators at Infopro is we choose what we do. I've declined, as you know, Phoebe, I've declined to work on 2 clients because in one case I didn't feel I was a good fit with the client culturally, and in another case I didn't feel it was a subject that I had the depth of expertise in that was needed. I think that's important as well. Ask any potential provider how they go about matching. So I always want to speak with the client. I want to know that I'm likely to slip into we because I feel an affinity with them, because then I'm more likely to get good scores at the end. And that's my measure of success.
As long as you've got a little bit of orange, Clinton, you're always going to be one of us. I promise you.
Yes, orange flower. And it's interesting that you say that, because a couple of things that you said trigger thoughts for me. And please, if you're here as an attendee, I know we would love to have your questions. We have just 10 minutes left in our hour, but we will reserve time for questions if you have them. But what I wanted to say is that the idea of selecting which programs to outsource and which to not, and Infopro understanding that and not just wanting to throw trainers at every possible, you know, kind of a opportunity grab for Infopro. It's really about, this program is probably best delivered by your internal staff, or this program, we have great competency in this area. We've got a bench of trainers who come from this background or that background. And in some cases, clients have come to us and said, you know, often it's for a rollout of a major new initiative. So we know today there are programs where, whether it's either some of the ideas around psychological safety in the workplace, you know, the workplace is shifting. So there are topic areas where they may not have internal competency among their trainers, and they want experts in the field of allyship and inclusion, inclusive leadership, emotional intelligence for leaders, leading across cultures and generations are some of the topics we've been offering to our clients lately, where, or they may have their own internal programs and they need people with those experiences and backgrounds, and even in some cases education to deliver where they don't have it. And they think, you know, we need you for this program because we need every single employee to go through this program, which means there's a mass scale, right? In some cases. And then if this is great, if this goes really well, then we can start to see what other programs we can offer and see how we partner. So it does keep the door open, although there's not this, you know, hunger to try to just take over. And we do have our consultants say yay or nay, like, I'm not a good fit for that. Even if we think that they might be, they're open to say no, just like Clinton said, and we appreciate that. And often they recommend some. Clinton has brought us fabulously talented recommendations of facilitators. So our network is always growing and it's always expanding to cover these topics. And our leadership and organizational development team is developing some wonderful courses in these areas, and at the same time so are our clients. And so we can do either we have facilitators who can deliver our programs, and we have facilitators who can go in and learn the programs like Clinton has done for Jonyce at Avanade. We have a few minutes left. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I just want to open it up to if there's anything else, Jonyce or Clinton, that we haven't covered that you want to touch on or bring up.
My mom might be on, and today's her birthday. So happy birthday,
Happy
Mom.
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
What's her name?
Peggy.
Peggy. Happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
Peggy.
Peggy.
I would sing
I
to
won't
you.
sing to you.
I would love to sing to you, but we'll see. Happy birthday
I'll
to
sing
you.
later. I'll sing to her later when nobody else is here.
Yes, that's a good idea. Oh, that's wonderful. I love birthdays. And
Yeah, no, it's just real quick. We did hit on so many things, but I have to say that working with Infopro has been an amazing experience, and we have learned a lot in bringing them on board. But one of the things that I love is that I trust them, right? I know if I need something, and they have the capacity or they have the expertise, they'll say, "Here, we got this," or "Here, we got this," and they'll even tell me how much it costs. Great, then I can take it to my leadership and move forward. So it's really a very what did you call that, concierge-like service,
yes.
where they are there, and if a need arises, I know I can always count on them for support. The other thing is we meet regularly and just talk about what's happening in my space. And if I don't know that Infopro has that capability, the representatives that I work with know. And they're like, "Oh, well, did you know we can do this?" And then they give me more information on it. So I think it's really a great partnership beyond, of course, just the instructors. But I gotta say, the quality of instructors you've provided is, again, such that I trust anybody you put in front of me.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up because, often we do get projects where we're rolling out a particular, maybe it's even a one-time training, but we talked about pilot programs, a pilot program where we'll deliver 5 to 6 programs, and then with the intention that the company will make their assessment to see if they want to do a wider, large-scale rollout. And so the idea of us wanting regular check-ins, we have regular calls, we always suggest a communication plan. We have our project plan. We want to stay in touch, and some of them, like, if everything's going smoothly, I don't think we need to connect. But the idea is kind of like we were talking about, heading it off at the pass, seeing what else is coming down the pike, being ready for it, getting the inside information that we might need to pass on to the facilitators, or just learning more about the client companies so that when we do bring on new facilitators who might be assigned to your company for facilitation, we then can share so much more. So we really do advocate for those regular check-ins, and they could be short and sweet, but we do like to stay in touch, and especially for longer term engagements, but even for short-term ones, it's valuable. I know that we only have a few minutes left. We didn't get any questions in the chat, but we covered, when we publicized this webinar, when we made this offering out to the world, then we mentioned a few bullet points. So I'm just going to review them and make mention that I believe we covered them, but if anything else jumps out at either of you to jump in and talk about, we wanted to talk about the efficiencies to expect through a robust outsourcing strategy, and I think we covered that, how consultants and L&D leaders can work together to drive learning outcomes. And I think the three of us talked about how, well, it's not just us and the client and then go tell the facilitator, and we're not running, liaison only. It's really a collaborative effort all the way around. And then what it takes to maximize learner engagement, we talked about in terms of facilitation versus training, and virtual versus instructor-led, which was the last point, pros and cons of ILT versus VILT, instructor-led training versus virtual instructor-led training, and how to increase results in both environments. Is there anything else before we close that either of you want to touch on? Clinton, thoughts?
The only other thing I'm aware that you provide, Phoebe, which many outsourced training companies don't, and that's technology. I'm sure you don't want to go into the details, but you do have a very substantial learning and development technology platform and in-house resource, which many outsourced training providers don't have.
It's true. We have our Unlock OKR, which is our learning management system. Several clients do license that to use and manage their learning programs, and that is there as well. And we have our managed learning services area where we could, manage the entire learning function of a company. And so those are our larger initiatives and endeavors that we have in technology, for sure, in terms of our platform. And even what I'm seeing is we're trying and really succeeding on being at the cutting edge of the artificial intelligence and some of the new generative AI applications for building programs, but also the experience, the learning experience. And so we're happy to see some of our clients also wanting to partner on those things. So I'm happy that you brought that up, because I know our team, our leadership is very enthusiastic and ambitious about making sure we are always incorporating new technologies, staying on top of things, and being at the cutting edge. Well, I just want to say thank you both. We have 2 minutes left, and it's been such a pleasure. I knew we would have fun. When I did promote this webinar on LinkedIn, I did say, come see how we can achieve results and also have fun. And I hope that everyone saw that we do have fun, and we do have a mutual appreciation for each other and our roles in the partnership, while still respecting the business goals. So, any last final comments from either of you?
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, thank you.
I really
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to work with you, Jonyce.
It is. It is.
Likewise, Clinton.
All of
But
you.
I've never been called a unicorn before.
You are definitely a unicorn. You are
one unicorn, that's for sure. Absolutely.
Yes. Inside Infopro, it's always like, is Clinton available? Well, Clinton could do that. And before I got to know you, I was like, how can this Clinton guy possibly be able to do all this stuff? I mean, really? It's always got to be Clinton. And it's not always Clinton, but it is really representative of the respect and belief people have in you, and understanding of the depth of your experience and knowledge. So thank you very much.
I have to say, it would be nice to be unique, but you've got a lot of facilitators, very similar, if not better than me. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you mean there's better ones? Where do I have?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned one of them earlier, the one who
she's
speaks
amazing.
English, French, and Italian. I'm still struggling with English.
Yeah, true. Okay.
And that brings us right to time. We're right at the top of the hour. So wanted to say thank you and bye, everybody. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you on
everybody.
the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.